Hello, hello. I just wanted to give you a trigger warning for this episode involving experiences of homophobia, being in the closet, coming out, all involved with Christianity. So if any of that's hard for you, just skip this episode and we'll see you next time. I fully thought I was straight and it just never progressed super far in terms of like a relationship.
Gay!
I felt for a fact that I had feelings for you, and I had no doubt in my mind about that.
That's so beautiful. Love beat the shame that was in you.
So she said, "Do you want to kiss her face?" And I was like, I think maybe, yeah.
Hey everybody!
Welcome to At Our Place with Megan and Sherell. My name is Megan.
And I'm Sherell. Welcome back.
Welcome to hanging out with your favorite wife and wife couple. Maybe not your favorite, maybe just like
one of them. Just one of the ones that you know.
Yeah.
Not even any of your favorites. Just the couple that you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think I've been saying that like queer couples will be more like normalized, and it's not like, oh, they're the like our friend has said, like, you guys are my favorite lesbian couple.
Yes. We're also the only lesbian couple that he knows.
Yeah,
he's very excited because he's a cis straight guy. So.
Yeah, but neither of us are lesbians.
Yeah, fun fact, neither of us are lesbians.
We're just both girls.
Girls.
But yeah, welcome to your favorite podcast with your queer women, and we're also musicians. And let us begin.
Let us begin. Sounds like you're about to do a speech or like a sermon or something.
No. Well, we will get pretty deep today.
Oh.
Do you want to tell them what we're talking about?
Sex.
No. Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you and me.
Well, first, baby, how was your day?
It was good. I was just talking to you about how you monitor my snack consumption.
I do not monitor your snack consumption. I monitor you eating my snack.
Anyway, she got a snack for the family, and
that
she got upset.
So dirty. I monitor how many snacks of mine that you eat.
Wait, what did you say before?
I said, I don't know. Run it back in your head. That it was just dirty. What I said
I
was
have
dirty.
to go listen to our own podcast.
Anyway, I monitor how many of my food snacks you eat.
She says, as a married person.
What?
You can't use my snacks.
We have our own things in this marriage. I have my own guitars. I have my own toothbrush. We collectively don't share a toothbrush.
Okay. But it's our bathroom.
Okay. But it's
so
like
I say snacks is in the category of
French toast if I make myself French toast.
Anyway, basically to recap, I was eating some of Sherell's pretzels from Trader Joe's, and they were so yummy and they were so flat. Like the flat ones. The salty.
So yummy and so flat.
Salty goodness. And I was eating some of them, and Sherell said, you always eat the rest of the snacks. And I said, okay, now.
I did not use the word always, actually.
Well, I did in my recap. From my interpretation, you said, you always eat the freaking last, all the snacks. You eat everything.
Is this really how you heard me? So rude.
No.
That's funny.
But you did say something similar to that. And then I said, okay, so it's a trap now, because if I eat the rest of the snacks, then you'll be like, see, told you so. But then if I don't eat the rest of the snacks, which I did, you said, that's because I said you always eat the rest of the snacks.
So I win regardless. Go on.
I'm in a trap, a snack trap. Help.
Blink twice if you need them to send help.
I need you to send snacks for me.
It's a podcast, they can't see you blinking.
Well, we have a video.
Go on Spotify quick.
And YouTube. But
funny.
Yeah, snack help please. for Megan.
Okay, well, next time I'll just buy more.
She's the problem solver around here. You know, I'm the problem maker and she's the problem solver.
Get your little finger up.
How are you, my darling?
I'm good. It's going to be a chaotic weekend. We just had a niece that was born, so that's fun. And then I have, you're not invited, but there's a bachelor party this weekend.
I am staying at home by myself.
You're going to have so much fun doing that.
Woohoo! I love staying at home by myself for like 3 hours, and then I'm like, I miss you, Sherell.
Well, I'm being gone all weekend, so
have fun. Don't get too wasted.
Oh, I will be.
Don't get too crazy with those stripper girls.
There will not be strippers. He's not that type of groom.
I know. I just wanted to say it.
Nah, it'll be fun. It'll be a good time.
It's a rite of passage. I'm watching you going with your buddies to the party.
It's a rite of passage to get strippers?
No, to like...
Good. We're good, because I totally got strippers for my...
No, you didn't. You hung out with your friends and drank.
We had a whole Lord of the Rings party, because I'm a big Lord of the Rings fan. So
I love that.
My maid of honor and all my friends threw a big old party, and we got drunk and had sword fights, and it was awesome.
Sounds awesome. We got crazy at my bachelorette party.
Didn't you guys play like wine pong?
Rachel, welcome to this episode of the podcast where we talk about Rachel, my sister. Rachel.
This segment of the podcast.
We should make it a segment, actually.
Rachel. A moment with Rachel.
No theme song, please. But she's also a singer. She could come up with her own. But she came up with a brilliant idea called wine pong for my bachelorette party when we got married. I
know how brilliant that idea was, because you were smashed.
It's sarcastic because I could not drink any wine on our honeymoon because I just like couldn't stand the taste of wine after that. It was because you're drinking it so fast.
That sucks because like we live by all of these amazing wineries, so half of our guests gave us wine as our wedding gifts, and so we're sitting here with dozens of bottles on our honeymoon, and you're like, I don't want any, I can't have any.
The literal smell of it after wine pong just made me like want to gag a little bit. So,
but you like it now though.
Yeah, I love wine.
Nice. I know it's not like a wedding themed podcast episode, but like I just have this distinct memory of pulling up to the house where you guys are all staying, and you had like our wedding beanie on and your aviators on, and you were just like not having it. You were just unhappy the whole time.
I felt so terrible.
I think you even fell asleep in the chair getting our nails done.
I might have closed my eyes.
It was nice. It was a good time together.
Do you want to get into this episode?
Yeah, baby. What are we talking about?
We are talking about my coming out, my big day.
Coming out of what?
The closet.
As what?
As bisexual.
Ooh, I get to ask the questions today, right?
Yes, you get to.
This will be exciting.
Put me in the hot seat.
I would just like to say that I spent a good 45 minutes before I picked you up from work going down a wormhole of bad interviews in prep for this interview.
Wait, like listening?
Like watching on YouTube celebrity interviews that were either purposely awkward or unintentionally terrible.
Did you do that to like make yourself feel better?
I don't know. It was just a lip, and then I was like, okay, well, if I'm better than that, then here we go. Some reporters, is that what they were?
Sure, yeah.
Some reporters had the audacity to ask really rude questions and then think that the celebrity had to actually sit there and answer.
Oh.
They just got up and left.
They do that to women a lot.
Yeah, but it was mostly the men who got up and left. Oh. The women were just like really witty and sarcastic back, and the men just left. So it was very fascinating. I enjoyed it.
If you ask me an offensive question, I'm going to stand up and walk out of this interview.
That's okay. And then you're going to walk over there and eat my last scone, aren't you?
Yes. Scone lies on the table, people. Good interview. No scone for Megan.
Okay, well, let's start this interview.
Okay.
We should like
I just don't even know where to start.
Well, lucky for you, I am asking the questions. So
okay, good.
Also, if you hear this in the background, I'm sorry. I have ADHD and I'm playing with a fidget spinner. Hopefully it's not too loud for you guys.
Yeah.
No, I want to ask you, like, how do you identify?
I use she, her pronouns. I identify as a cisgender woman, and bisexual, I think, is the term I've adopted.
How does that label fit on you now? Because you came out later.
I see it as more of a spectrum for sure, like the bisexual spectrum. I'm not like generally attracted to the women that I see, but if I move to a town that has like all butch women, then maybe like
We're
the spectrum
never
will shift.
moving to a town with all butch women. I'll just put my foot down right there.
We're never moving to a bigger city.
She's gonna find out what she's been missing.
What I'm missing, I'm with you.
I know.
But no, I say it's more of a spectrum because I grew up like fully 100% believing I was straight, because I was like mostly all attracted to men. I liked the boys. So
were you boy crazy? Like, you liked boys a lot?
Yeah, I liked boys a lot.
Okay, so take me back to like your household, like your family. Like, was sexuality fluid in your household? Was like gender talked about? Like, what type of household environment were you in?
I grew up in a mostly, I don't know why I say mostly. I grew up in a Christian household.
They're mostly Christian, except for them Fridays. Am I right?
I don't know why I said mostly. We went to church every Sunday, and we learned about the Bible and Bible stories, and it was all pretty straightforward, I thought.
Well, so when you say Christian, like, what type of Christian? There's a lot of types of Christian.
We went to a non-denominational church growing up, which is kind of like the ones that have like the smoke machines and the worship music,
like the rock
and
church, like the like a hip, like cool,
kind of like a cool
Christian,
a cool church. Yeah. I really liked it. I liked the worshiping. I felt like I enjoyed that time of being like spiritual.
Okay, for like those of us who don't know what worshiping is, what is that?
It's singing songs. I liked singing. Surprise, surprise. I really liked the aspect of being like in a whole crowd of people that were all singing, because then I wasn't like put on the spot, and I just liked kind of being with myself and being spiritual. It was like praying and singing and centering yourself all at the same time, and kind of releasing any sort of feeling like you have control on your life and just all that stuff.
So it's like meditation with music.
Yeah, and there's like the believing in God element and Holy Spirit. So that's where I grew up in.
Okay, that's cool. Is it like still part of your life today? Like,
it is. We've tried out like a couple of churches together. I think like when you and I first started going out, I brought you to like a Christian group that I was going to in college. Fast forward to me being in college, I went to a lot of like this big Christian group on campus, and I led Bible studies and all of this stuff. Yeah, I just really wanted to do good things for like people and my faith, and a little part of me felt like I was supposed to like be a good Christian, I guess, but I also enjoyed part of it. I don't know, had a hard time like connecting with a lot of people there, but I had some real friends there. And so I like brought you once, I think, but it was obviously like kind of weird for us, feeling like we were at like a Christian place together that wasn't affirming of same-sex relationships. What else? Oh, today. So, I mean, we like found a church that's like super wholesome, that is like affirming, pride flag, everything. And we love the pastor and his husband, and we just love everything about it. We don't go very often, but I think that was like really special because it was the first place. I literally felt so scared for the first time to put my like hand on your leg in a church, because
I remember that moment.
It felt so weird at first because I was so used to just like not being able to like do that in a church setting. So now, like, I mean, we don't go to church that often, but I like listening to affirming churches that think about the Bible more in a more interesting way than I'm used to, and just like unpacking it more. And I like prayer and all of that stuff is really good.
Nice.
I like believing in something bigger than me.
You said something along the lines of you were kind of focusing on being a good Christian in your household. So like, how did that feel? Because I would imagine as a kid, you know, you're like a child and you've got all this pressure to be good. Like what did that feel like?
I don't know why, but for some reason, like, I feel like some kids, they get the response from their parents of like, oh, don't do that thing. And they're like, I'm going to do it anyway, even if they get in trouble, you know, like it just doesn't faze them.
Me.
Yeah, like our dog, Aliko. Don't do that. Okay, well, whatever. But for me, for some reason, I think I felt really deeply about things. So like I felt really deeply about the approval of my parents, and mom and dad, if you're listening, I love you. So I just feel like it hit me really deep if I like did something that was quote unquote not right. We weren't allowed to say, oh my God, like the Lord's name in vain. And so oh,
you guys are like strict Christians.
I don't know, strict is a spectrum, but yeah, we weren't allowed to say that. So I think I like said that one time when I was little and I was like with my friend and I was like, ooh, I'm gonna say this word. Like when you're like scared and you know you're about to do something like kind of wrong, but you're not sure what's gonna happen. And then I think my mom was like, Megan, don't say that or something through like the kitchen window because she could hear me. And I like felt really scared after that. Not like scared. I've like never been scared for my safety or anything like that, but just like felt so impacted by like what my parents thought of me and if I was like being good or like not doing something good. And especially with like spirituality, one time we were about to like pray before church because like me and my family had a little prayer before we went to church, and I was like as funny as I am now, honestly. I was like, oh, I'm gonna be so funny, and I was like, I'm not gonna pray, I'm gonna play my Game Boy.
You're like, this will be hilarious.
Yeah, I don't know why. I'm gonna go play my game. But they were like very serious about it, and like faith is something we take seriously, and I think I got some sort of like timeout.
You're like, tough crowd, am I right?
I felt like kind of ashamed about that. So just a lot of moments that I felt like a little bit shut down, I feel. I don't remember what you asked.
I'm sure you answered it. Okay, so I'm getting this picture that little Megan, like little you, is desperately wanting to be good. And I'm remembering how, like, everything that we've been learning about how kids are and about how acceptance, like what our parents think about us, is basically God to us. And then you throw on all the pressures of Christianity where it's like, this is heaven or hell. This is right or wrong. This is sin or righteousness. It's like your very well-being as a child is dependent on you being good. That doesn't mean your parents are going to like hurt you. It just means that like in your little body as a child, your parents' approval of you is just fully depend on whether or not you're good, like your behaviors. So how did that, like, what did that look like later when you were like high school, college age, and you had this, like, because you at this time you didn't know you were bi, right?
No, and I was honestly quite homophobic.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, like if you like grow up in a Christian household and in a church that like, it's kind of the idea of you can love people that have quote unquote same-sex attractions. You can love them without like supporting that part of them or whatever. So it was like really,
it's like you can love them without actually loving them.
Yeah, I would say so now, but I feel like that kind of was confusing, but I also accepted it because it felt so like black and white of like, this is what it is. And I could like love my friends and stuff, but if anybody like directly asked me anything about what I thought, like it was just like I don't know.
It's like you knew the party line. You knew what you were supposed to say. You knew what everybody in your family and church community had taught you to say, which is, this is not okay.
Yeah, and I'm like pretty conflict averse, and so for a long time I like just never ever wanted any of my friends to like ask me about what I believed or what, and I think everybody could kind of sense that I was like religious or whatever, and so it was just like so black and white of my mind of like, this is what I'm not allowed to believe and this is what I am. And so it made me like kind of homophobic, like feeling uncomfortable seeing like two girls kiss, stuff like that, you know.
Did you ever just feel loved?
What? Of course
like,
I did.
No, I know there's loved, but then there's like loved. Like, did you ever just feel loved? Like, was it a feeling that you had like, I can do or be anything and I will be unequivocally accepted and celebrated and loved and held,
I mean, probably.
And walked with? Like, did you feel that growing up as a kid? Did you feel that? Like,
I have a lot of nice pictures and fun memories there, but a lot of like the weird memories that I have like stuck out to me are the ones that are like where I felt confused or like ashamed or like something like that.
Well, I'm getting this picture of, there's a right, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but like there's a right way to be and there's a wrong way to be.
Yeah, like I have always felt loved, and I have always felt the presence of, this is the right thing and this is the wrong thing. And
the thing that sticks out to me is you have always easily fit into the right thing. Like, you've always appeared to fit into the right thing. Would that be a fair statement?
I think so. I fit pretty easily into liking what normal, quote unquote, girls like playing with the right toys, wearing the right things. I fit pretty normally into like the circles that I was in.
Basically every social marker that we celebrate, that America celebrates, like you had that, except for maybe like athlete. You know?
Yeah, I just like wanted to be like really well accepted in like everything that I did.
So then I say that, I can see you getting a little uncomfortable.
No, I'm mainly just hot.
You want to take off the sweater?
Yeah.
By all the standards, you fit in.
Yeah.
So then take me to the moment where, and I know that you actually didn't fit in. Like, I know there's stuff that was going on the inside of you that you're like, okay, well, I have to, like, nobody's just perfect and shiny. You know, you had stuff on the inside, and then you walked through your own insecurities, I'm sure.
I had lots of insecurities.
But from the outside looking in, you had it going on. So then take us to the moment where you got thrown the curveball and you did not fit in anymore. Like, take us to that moment. Enter me.
So all the way up until the end of high school. By the way, I never loved the times where I felt like, yes, I fit in, because obviously that means that like some people don't fit in. It's like a whole weird thing. But anyway, nobody really fits in. So the end of college, I met you. We were playing a songwriter showcase, and I was like, for some reason, just drawn to you. I came and introduced myself to you and your friend. You had invited me to like go hang out with you afterwards, and so we hung out 2 different locations in the same night.
I would just like to say I thought you were fully straight. I thought you were hot, but I thought you were straight, and I was trying to give my friend who was with me time to get to know you.
I fully thought I was straight before this too. I like had only ever experienced being attracted to guys, and it just never progressed super far in terms of like a relationship.
Gay.
Like, there was just always like a piece missing. So I enter Sherell. I met her. We hung out a few times, and she was just the most like intentional person.
Ripped jeans, mohawk, leather jacket,
that's
Converse
not what
wearing,
I was thinking.
rock star, hottie.
No, I really liked your personality. Not like, okay, you're good looking, but I also really was drawn to your personality because you had like invited me to hang out with you and your friend the very first time I met you, and I was longing for that kind of friendship, and I was like, oh my gosh, someone that is wanting the same thing that I want. So I was like, these seem like really cool people. And then you and I started texting, we started hanging out all the time, you know, going from my place to your place, meeting our friends.
Well, I would just like to go back to that other moment real quick. You were flirting with me quite a lot that first night.
That first night I met you, in hindsight, I was flirting quite a lot.
I would just like to throw out for the people, you had so many girlfriend expectations on me as my friend.
It's like subconsciously I was like, I'm getting a little bit jealous, or like, I don't know.
I need more time with you. I need you to go pick this up for me. I need you to make sure you're about to meet my parents, so please make sure that you wear something other than black.
Basically.
Like I was like, there's a lot of expectations for a straight girl who's just my friend.
Yeah. I have no way to deny it.
So what was going on for you with all of that? Like what?
I don't know. I don't know what was going through my head. I just feel like my heart was going full force. By the time we had kissed for the first time.
I didn't kiss you until you were my...
Yes, you did.
I didn't.
Mm-hmm. We kissed.
I kissed you before you were my girlfriend?
Officially, yeah.
I didn't kiss you before we both knew we had feelings for each other.
Yeah. Should I save this for like a special episode?
Save it for a special episode. Don't give it out on the first date.
This will be about me mainly.
What's going on in you? Because I'm out here being out and open in my life, and you have this like pull towards me.
I think I mean, I still like homophobic.
That's funny because I didn't remember you as homophobic.
It made me uncomfortable, but I'm good at hiding it.
Okay, that's fascinating to me because you were not the only queer person in your family. So what was going on there?
So yeah, my sister Rachel, she came out as queer I think 1.5 years before everything that happened with me and Sherell. And so like when she first told me, we were in these same Christian circles where like they say if you're like queer, if you're having same-sex attraction, and some people would even go so far to say like, you know, it's so great to be queer, like love the queer things about you, but just like be celibate.
That is so
and it feels liberal, but then like confusing.
What is it when two things they're contradictory to each other, like paradoxical? Like it's like, how can you love yourself while also simultaneously saying that part of me is bad?
It's a step in between. If you are a man and you are gay, don't be effeminate, don't play with Barbie dolls, whatever. But like this newer version was like, love those parts about yourself. That's amazing. You do you, you know, be effeminate or be whatever, like, but don't do the dirty.
Don't do the dirty, like don't have sex.
Yeah, with the same sex.
My problem with that is like, how do we gauge how far a queer person can go under those parameters? Like, how do you can you have like, because when we were first friends, like we were basically had a very close friendship. One might say we look like a couple.
Yes, but
we weren't kissing or any, you know, like we weren't sexual.
The theology is like
I'm just saying your sexuality is so wrapped up in everything else about you, so it gets very weird to be like split it with that line. Like it just doesn't make sense to me. Yeah,
so when she told me, you know, I think I'm bisexual, and I was like, okay. And she was like, I think I'm gonna try to, you know, I'm just gonna like stay celibate from that part of me, I guess, because that's what we were taught.
Okay, so you had 0 examples of like you could be queer and Christian at the same time.
Yeah. We didn't have any examples of that. At least I didn't. I don't think Rachel did till later either. So then when I met you and I was confused about things, I think I was like happy with how things were and I was excited to be close to you.
Yeah.
But then once you confronted me with like, hey, I don't sleep over with my just any old pals, because I loved the benefits of feeling like the attention and feeling like, I don't know, special to you and vice versa. I liked all of that. And it was just the like hard defined line of like, hey, I can't be doing this unless we figure out what we are, what's going on. And I said, one of the main holdups for me was like, I just don't see myself being like in the LGBTQ community. Like, that's just not me. So like a lot of it was like, oh my gosh, my identity, what?
So when I told you that I liked you, you had a whole identity crisis.
Yeah, basically.
Oh, okay.
So I said like all of that to you. And then I was like, I guess we could just like be friends for now. I guess I don't just like you like that.
That's not what you said, but that's for another episode.
Oh.
You put a whole bunch of funny, like, you marked your territory.
I marked my territory.
You didn't just say, oh, I guess we can be friends. You said,
oh.
You gave me a whole bunch of rules, like, but that's for another episode.
I just was processing a lot with you. And then I talked to Rachel and I said, hey, I am confused. I am like having these feelings, but like we're just friends. And Rachel, you know, had been like thinking about her sexuality for at least a year at that point, maybe more. And she was like, okay, I'm gonna help you figure this out. This was like, Sherell said we needed a little bit of space.
Oh, because I told you I liked you. You said I don't think I could ever see myself as part of the LGBT community. So then I said, okay, fine. I need some space for you then. So then you got on the phone with your sister.
Yeah, during our break, I got on the phone with Rachel and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm freaking out. I don't know what to do. These are my feelings. I don't even know what feelings I told her. And then she was like, okay, I'm going to help you. Do you want to kiss her face? And I was like,
do you?
Maybe.
Do you want to kiss my face?
I like kissing you.
Can I get a kiss?
Sure. So she said, do you want to kiss her face? And I was like, I think maybe, yeah. But I don't think I've ever like felt this for a girl before, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, well, maybe you're just gay for Sherell.
Wise words from Rachel.
The wisest words I ever heard from my little sister.
Oh.
So I took that and I was like, that makes sense.
So you basically took that and ran with it.
Yep. And then after that, well, it was about one night that me and Sherell hadn't talked. And then the next morning,
maybe 2 days. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was like the next morning.
Felt like a year.
I was like, okay, me and Sherell hadn't been talking and I really miss her. But I also was like, okay, I'm getting asked to do a performance on the same day me and Sherell were supposed to go on a road trip to LA to visit her friend next weekend. So I was like, shoot, how long is this space gonna last? Should I take this gig or not?
I thought you texted me because you missed me.
I did miss you, but...
Woo! Finally, she admits it. Okay, keep going.
Fine, you can have that one. But I really was like, practical mind. I need to know if I'm going to LA next weekend or if we're still gonna have space. Hey Sherell, are we still gonna have space next weekend or should I take this performance? And then you were like, oh thank goodness I missed you too. And then
no.
Yes.
I said I think maybe we should talk.
She said let's talk. We got together, we walked in the park. Sherell said, what's up? I said, okay, I think I like you, but blah blah blah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, so then you said that you liked me, but you weren't sure what that meant.
Yes.
So then now take me to, like, let's fast forward because we're not like telling them all the details of our story. This is like for you to like come out. So then I feel like you went into this process, right? Because you still had all of your lifelong theology and belief system that what you were feeling was wrong. So then what was it like to process that over the next few months? Because you had me in your world. I was an out Christian, but you still had all of this like lifelong beliefs.
Honestly, like it was a very interesting thing because me and Sherell stayed, you know, in the closet in a relationship for like 6 months. We moved in together at the beginning of that.
Yeah, so you lived with me and my friend because we had that extra room in her house, and
Yes.
you graduated.
I graduated college. I needed a place to live, and I was like, I'm not about to go house hunting. My best friend has a spare room in her place.
For those of you just listening, I'm rolling my eyes right now.
So you were the one that was like, you could totally move in with us. And
yeah, but
I
I said that before we were like together.
But I kept it in my back pocket.
Yeah.
And I wanted to move in with you because we were spending like every day together. So out of practicality.
So we effectively went into the closet. What was that like? Because we were in the closet, but like, were you in the closet too? Everybody like what was in the closet like for you?
So I effectively knew something queer was going on after 22 something years of life. Totally sprung up on me, and then we were in the closet dating.
So we were dating for 6 months and we were in the closet.
Yeah. So we were in the closet from my parents, your family. Like, I just didn't want to cross that bridge yet. But I told my closest friends about us, and everybody that I knew would like celebrate and be excited for us, and the people that like my college roommates that have like seen us, you know, hanging out and
they knew before
in the
we
same
knew.
bed. Yeah, they let me just go at my own pace. But we told like my friends, and they were all excited for me, which was really nice because even telling the first people was like really scary and really stressful. Even though I knew they would like celebrate, it's like, okay, here's the big night. I'm gonna tell my like friends that are totally gonna support me. But so then it was like building up my courage a little bit. It felt like impossible to tell my parents for a little while, because I just needed to figure out things and get confident in us and myself. So we were dating in the closet from like mainly my parents for like 6 months, because I really love them and care what they think of me, and I care about our relationship. So I didn't want to mess it up. I wanted to be ready for the big moment of telling them.
But I had met your parents by this point. So
yes, I didn't want them to see you at first glance as my girlfriend and be like, oh my gosh, this Black queer woman is a stranger. We don't know her, and suddenly Megan's dating her. Like, I just didn't want that. I just knew that it wasn't quite like safe yet, and so I brought you into my family as the safest thing, which was my friend, and they loved you so much. They were like, oh my gosh, Sherell is awesome. Like, literally would say it so much, like when we were just friends to them, but to us we were dating. And so,
well, I remember them telling me multiple times, like, we're just so glad Megan has you in her life.
They could tell you were really special to me, and they could tell that we were just really good together. That we were just special in some way.
Yeah, I remember them using that exact phrase too, and I thought, do they know? No, nobody's ever told me that before.
So then I finally got up the courage, and this was like months of us living together and having like first couple arguments about things, and all of our, you know, the traumas coming up and the arguments and stuff like that. When you're first with someone, especially living with them, like so many things that are different about you two come out. In the midst of all of that, it was like being in the closet to my parents, which was really hard when we visited them and stuff. So,
or when they surprise visited us, I remember those.
Yeah, like, oh, I'm coming into town, which I now, like, I love my family coming into town, and I love where we're at right now. But back then it was like, oh my gosh, I'm sleeping in Sherell's room. I don't even know how to turn on the light in my actual room because I never
slept in there.
never stay in there. So it was like such a weird time, and it was really scary when I thought about confronting. I had never really confronted anybody in a big way in my life, and I hated conflict. So it was like, this is like the first big time that I've had to like confront something.
Yeah, this is a side note, but I remember having to send group texts multiple times when your parents would like say, we're rolling through. I remember having to send a group text, say, oh my God, Megan's parents are coming. Nobody out us.
Like, yeah, for hanging out with friends or something. And and I don't really feel bad about that, about like the lying and stuff, just because I was like, this is way bigger than any type of, it was just like, I need to figure myself out. I need to figure out what I'm feeling. And so that's what I was going to say earlier too, is like, I felt for a fact that I like loved you. Like I had feelings for you, and I had no doubt in my mind about that. And I was like, okay, I'm following this.
Yeah.
And then alongside that, it was kind of like a switch could be flipped on or off. I felt so happy being with you. But then if there was like a movie with queer characters in it, like a queer couple or people that liked each other, my like I felt uncomfortable.
So you saw that like internalized homophobia going on inside of you.
Yeah, like I would literally be sitting next to you, like cuddling on the couch, and then I would see somebody in a TV show that was like gonna kiss a girl, and it was a girl, and I would feel like uncomfortable. That was there for like a while. I had to like over time just like tell myself in my head, I am not you love Sherell.
Yeah.
I am queer, and this is just the same as everybody else that is queer out there. Like it's all the same. I had to like figure that out in my head.
It's like you had skin in the game. Like it used to be a concept and a thing out there, but now it was like you in your real life, in your real relationship.
And those things coexisted.
So at this point, you're like out to everybody except for your parents. Everybody that matters except for your parents.
And you had helped me a lot because you had a lot of resources that you had while you were doing your like deconstruction process, when you're like figuring out your queerness and your spirituality and all of that stuff. And so sometimes like you would have resources that I also listened to, and sometimes it was like hard for me to accept some of the resources that you had like a plethora of like books and podcasts and stuff. I did, because
my coming out journey was very much on my own, so I gathered a lot of resources.
Yeah, so I liked having that available to me because like you were really helpful. And so one of the books that I read was Unashamed by
Amber Cantorna.
Yes, Amber Cantorna. But Unashamed, I read that a few days before I had like decided I was going to tell my parents about us. And it was really helpful because it was about her and her coming out process in a Christian family. So after that, I kind of just hyped myself up. I decided, you know what? My parents are already coming to town for something. Perfect opportunity. I'm going to go to a breakfast place that I like. It's going to be public. It's going to be great. And
it was like in October.
It was in October. I can't remember the date.
I want to say it's the 16th, but it might not be right.
So I had written like a whole long note on my phone.
It was beautiful.
Oh, thank you. I probably still have it somewhere. A whole long note of like what I was going to say, my rationale behind what I've been thinking the past, 6 whatever months. I wanted everything to be on the table. So I said, we are dating, we are living together, you're like in the same room. I told them everything. It was so hard to like the moment during breakfast to say, I have like something to tell you guys. But once I started reading my letter, I was like so scared, and it was just so scary. And I like was putting everything out on the table. I felt so exposed. I felt so vulnerable. And I just like was crying in this public diner type breakfast
wasn't even
place.
With you. Aww.
No, because I like wanted to do it myself, because it's like just me and my parents. I didn't want them to like look over at you and be like, what? Like like putting two and two together.
I can handle the heat. It just wasn't my moment. It was yours.
And you were really sweet, and you were like waiting at home for me, like for me to come home for my big moment.
I was waiting with a special something.
Yeah, she got me a necklace, a gold necklace that had a heart on it. It was really sweet.
Diamonds, yeah.
Yes. But yeah, during that moment, I was just like sobbing. And I was in this public place, and I just couldn't contain it as I was reading everything. And then, you know, my parents had realized, holy cow, this is like a big moment for Megan. She's freaking out, and we're freaking out too on the inside.
Cow, she's freaking out.
They acted really calm because I think they were.
What did they tell you?
They were shocked on the inside, I think, as I expected. But they were like, oh, okay, let's go. We're gonna pay the bill. Larry, go pay the bill, and then we're gonna go outside and sit on a bench. I just kind of caught my breath, and all that my parents said were like, they just kept saying like, we love you, thank you for telling us, that was really brave of you. And they just like kept saying that. And on my drive home, I just started crying again, and I was like, I was praying like, thank you so much, God, that like this went well. And I just feel so kind of relieved, but also emotional craziness. But I was happy that I got everything out in the open, and I was like, that's the best it could have gone. And then a few days later, my parents had some time to process everything, and they came back to town actually, and you know, we're like, let's go to a park and talk some more. And I was like a little bit scared at this point. I don't know, I was scared for like the whiplash a little bit.
Yeah, it was like kind of it was whiplash.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. So they just like had some questions and concerns, and like I don't blame them, because if I had a kid and they were like 6 months, had this whole life that I didn't know about, I would be shocked, concerned, whatever. Like I will validate those feelings. But it was hard. I grew up with the firm belief of like, you don't move in together until you're married, because it's, you know, it goes along with the whole like, don't have sex before you're married,
like the purity movement thing.
Yeah. And so I like really understood those beliefs, but I also didn't apply them to being with a woman. Like it just didn't feel the same. I think I would have a big aversion to like sleeping in the same bed with a man, but it didn't feel bad when we were together.
I think maybe you just made an exception for yourself, babe.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I mean, I did it. I told them, I told the whole world, aka Facebook. So yeah, eventually we were like official to the whole world, and therefore like making me come out at the same time of like, hey, I'm dating this person, and also I am bisexual, and everything is awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, but what I was saying, sorry, I keep jumping around, but I was talking to my parents after they had some time to process, and one of the main things they were like concerned about was like, we believe that you don't live together until you're married. They didn't bring up at all having like same-sex attractions, just because I think they would have been afraid to like talk about that, because like they love me and they don't want to discount my feelings, and it's just like complicated, so they like didn't feel like they needed to talk about that at all. Yeah, and they just like wanted to see where I was like spiritually with God and the church, and what, yeah, they just like wanted to know what the heck was going on.
How did that feel?
It was like a little bit hard to dive into everything, just because I feel like I got to a place where I was so sure of like what I was doing, and I felt very centered, and I felt autonomous, and it was hard feeling kind of like questioned for what I was doing, but ultimately I just believed in us, and I believed in what I felt for you. So I understand how messy it all is, but
can I say something that's very honest?
Maybe.
And we can keep this in or not. That's fine. So I'm watching you and watching you tell the story, and I'm watching you like catch your breath and clench your jaw, and you seem stressed.
It feels stressful.
So what's going on for you?
I don't know. It feels stressful to talk about it like in the public sphere, so in depth. Because I don't know if I obviously had to come out to everybody, but I don't know. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus. I don't want to make my parents feel bad for how they reacted. I don't know. It's just like weird to talk about because I haven't that much.
Right. But this is for like the person who's younger, who's in your shoes, because there are so many. You are evidence that there are so many people who are in your shoes who haven't come out, don't get to come out, didn't realize that they're queer till later, about to come out, may never come out. Like, you are evidence that people are still going through that journey. I am evidence that people are going through that. So this is for them. This episode isn't for your parents. This episode is for you to tell your story and for those who need it to hear it. So that's who we're thinking of, right?
Yeah. I mean, so
how does
it's hard.
Yeah. Okay. So that's hard for you to talk about.
Yeah, because it was hard during the time. I mean, our relationships with at least my parents, I'm really close to them and we have a relationship with them, but it has been hard. Everybody, when they have a background of being in church or being in places that don't affirm queer people, everybody's gonna have their limits for a while, for like a long time. I think maybe
like those who are non-affirming are gonna have their limits.
Yeah, like it takes time, like comments that feel bad, and then we talk about them and it's hard to talk about them because I have to stand up for what I'm feeling many times, and my parents have to feel uncomfortable hearing that many times, and like it's just this offhand comment made me uncomfortable. Well, we're still dealing with things, and we're all still dealing with things, so it was kind of very fresh for
ongoing.
At least a few years. Yeah, and I think we're in like one of the best places right now, and I'm so thankful that like you, the person I love, like is close with my family, and like we get that. Not everybody gets that.
Yeah. We had to fight for it though,
Yeah, and I think I talked about this in the art. We had an article written about our wedding by Portrait of a Young Couple.
Ooh,
and in that I talked about this. Yeah, Vincent. Oh my gosh, he's the best. Vincent Poe, been in the New York Times.
Yeah, he's awesome.
And he took the time to learn our story, and part of that was like, it has been hard, and my dad didn't feel comfortable walking me down the aisle at our wedding, and like first dance, all that stuff that normal weddings have, or like the traditions that some of them shouldn't be traditions anymore anyway.
First dance, and yeah.
So that was a little bit disappointing, and I accepted it, and I have constantly had grace for people, and just like we're all trying to do our best, and I think we've made it through a lot of the hard things.
So how do you do that? Because in my journey, and then like so many of my friends' journeys and so many ones that I've been watching and see over there, it's just like there's this moment where you have to decide, I want my non-affirming family to still be in my life, or I don't. And there's this decision. So what made you decide to stick through all those bumpy, hard things? Because you could have just said, pass. Which I'm prone to do. I'm prone to be like, I'm not here for it. Pass.
Well, yeah, me, and like my family is practically a part of me. Like, we're just so close, and even the parts we don't understand about each other, like we're willing to get through those. We're willing to sit in the uncomfortable. We're willing to still spend time together. At least that's how I see it from my perspective. So I think what made me want to stick through like that whole process was like, it's a little cheesy, but like our love kept me going, and my love for my parents, my brother and my sister are both very celebratory and happy for me, and I'm really glad for that. But with me and my parents, I think was the hardest one, just because I really want to be approved by them. I really want to be, be in good standing with them, and for them to see me for all of the amazingness that I am. So I just want them to see all the good parts of me. And so that was like the hardest, but I wanted to stick with it because I have had such a close relationship with my parents, and I love them very much. And I know that they love me too, even though they haven't been able to understand a lot of things, and it's been a big learning process for everybody. And also, like, I had to deal with feeling guilty I basically had this idea of I wouldn't be affirming if I didn't just randomly fall in love with you. Like, I have no idea how else it would have happened. The thing that kept me going with feeling so sure that it was okay for us to be together was because of my feelings for you, and I just felt so strong in that.
So you were willing to go through the process of deconstruction and coming out and accepting yourself because you were in love.
Yeah, I felt so sure about it, just unshakable, and that helped me kind of direct everything else behind that. And then I also had to deal with this feeling of guilt of, if I was straight, if I still had my same Christian beliefs and I never got the experience of falling in love with you, how would I have known in my gut to be able to change, to be affirming? Because you can read a bunch of books, you can read the arguments for same-sex attractions isn't bad actually in the Bible because of these things. Like, you can read all of that and get all of the knowledge, but deep within you there is that like uncomfortability and that homophobia that you need to change.
Yeah, it's a shame.
And the thing that changed that for me was reconciling it with, I love Sherell, and that's okay.
That's so sweet. That's so beautiful. Love beat the shame that was in you.
And so I empathized with my parents. I empathized with other people in the church of like,
who didn't get it yet.
Totally get it. I used to be in your place.
I think that it's beautiful. Your whole story, I think, is fucking hard. Like, I commend you, because what I took a decade to do, you did in a year. So I really do commend you for that. That was one of the ways that I knew that you loved me, as I watched you being willing to like love yourself in this and love me in this and go through this excruciating process of coming out and deconstruction and all that stuff. Like, you were willing to do it for yourself and for us, and I think that's awesome. Before we end, we started this talking about young you who just wanted to have, like, you just wanted to be good, basically. And now we're talking about older you. Imagine that you have, and this is cheesy, but who cares? Imagine that you have our daughter in your lap, or younger you in your lap. And imagine you knew this journey that she was going to go on, or she's going to go on her own journey.
Stop making me cry.
Like, just imagine that you knew this journey that she was going to go on. What would you tell our future daughter or younger Megan? Like, what would you as a kid need to hear? Knowing what you know now, who you are now, a married woman, been together 4 years, have 2 crazy pups, a beautiful life, a whole life. Like, what would you tell kid you if she's sitting in your lap?
I just don't even know what to say right now.
Baby, I was not trying to make you cry. I'm asking because it's so important to affirm that child in us who had all that pressure, especially in the Christian evangelical world, to be good. And, and it's kind of an impossible mantle to put on a child.
I just feel so many things. If I'm holding younger me, I just get so emotional because I'm like, you've like you're gonna go through a lot of stuff. You're not gonna feel like you're enough, and you're not gonna feel, and I'm like, I hate like all this for her. So I'm like, yeah. And I get like upset for her.
Upset at what? I
just want to like hold her and shove everybody else out and be like, you don't get to talk to her.
What does she need to hear?
You're going to end up with so much love, and you're going to end up with happiness, and you have a lot of joy along the way, and you have a lot of things going for you. When you're doing a lot of cool things and you might not believe that you're truly amazing, like you are.
I love that. I thoroughly wish that you had never felt ashamed. I appreciate you being vulnerable and that for people.
I feel like I didn't do it justice talking to my younger self.
You know what I would just do?
What?
What I do when I talk to myself?
What?
I do this. It's so cheesy, but I hold myself and then close my eyes and I tell young me what she needs to hear. You can do it if you want to. You don't have to.
No, I'm too shy. I don't want to do it anymore.
You sure?
Yes.
Okay. What I wanted to say before we go is like, there's a rage that goes inside of me, in my heart, that you ever felt ashamed or like you weren't good enough, or that you ever had to act a certain way to be good. There's a rage that goes in my heart for like young you, because you telling your story and then me knowing the last 5 years of your story, like I've seen that theme of you battling for your worth and battling for your value, and are you good enough?
I'll say it wasn't just like the Christian upbringing. It was also like, I feel like I was especially sensitive to like if my friends ever said I did something weird or laughed at me for something small, like it felt really big to me. And so that was also a big part of it too, of like wanting to fit in but always feeling like a weird one out or something like that.
I hear that. Well, you and I have talked about like I obviously don't fit in so many ways, right? Disability, queer, and knew it at like a young age, Black, American growing up in Europe. Like I obviously didn't fit in so many ways. So like culture says you should fit in, like you should feel great, you have privilege. But I would say in a lot of ways that mantle that you have to carry is really, really, really hard, because you fit in, right? You're golden, as Glennon Doyle always talks about it. Like you are perfect. And so it's like from the way that you look, to the way that you can sing, to the way that you're intelligent, to the way that your social economic status in the world, to your body like abilities, to what you thought was your sexuality, like everything was perfect to everybody else. And that has got to be fucking exhausting, being perfect all the time. So I am raging in my insides at you ever having to hold that mantle, because I still see it come out, you know? I still see you walk with grace under this pressure of everybody expecting you to be perfect at all times, and it infuriates me. So how do you move now? Like, how do you move in the world now as a 26-year-old woman?
I still haven't like...
What do you do with that pressure now today?
I still kind of carry it a little bit. I don't like swear in front of my parents. I have sometimes at home, but there's a lot of things that I'm still probably dealing with. Honestly, I feel like coming out was like the biggest confrontation I've ever made, and ever since then I've been able to make progress of like little ways of standing up for myself or doing what actually feels right to me, or little steps of not caring what other people think if I'm doing something that I believe in. So it's been a lot of baby steps, and I feel a lot more confident now, but still dealing with some quirks, I guess.
So coming out has made you braver.
Oh, totally.
Nice.
It's a really crazy thing to do, and a lot of people probably feel like, oh, coming out, you know, shouldn't be a big deal anymore. It's 2023 and we live in California, but there's a lot of people where it's a big deal.
Yeah, well, I have seen you, babe. I literally had to like pull you away from confronting this guy at a bar.
Yeah, I'm so much braver now.
I'm just saying, like, I'm literally the one that's like, can we just go home? Like, I don't want it tonight.
I'm trying to live a life of the most integrity for me, as Martha Beck says.
Love that. So for our listeners who are not married, found their partner out of the closet, accepting themselves, and, you know, what do you have for you at the start of your journey? What would you say?
I think I would say you're going to feel a lot of feelings that either feel really right or really wrong. Sometimes the things that you're feeling are just because of how you grew up or just because something is ingrained in you. And sometimes if you feel uncomfortable or scared, sometimes you will get over that, and you just need practice listening to the things that feel right to you, and you can do it. And it just takes a lot of telling yourself the truth, getting yourself some space, taking a deep breath. You don't have to do it all at once. You just take your time.
I love that. You're echoing my therapist. She said that when we are young, our culture and family give us a lot of beliefs and lenses. Like, they give us a lot of things to help us move through our childhood and into adulthood, and then we get to decide, okay, thank you for that, and now I'm gonna keep that, or now I'm gonna change it a little bit, or now I'm gonna let that go. Like, we get to decide as adults what serves us.
And also just make sure you have a friend at least that knows what you're going through, someone that you can turn to if you're having a hard time, that you feel safe with.
Is it worth it?
Oh yeah, I mean, Glennon Doyle says, like, it's choosing the right kind of hard, and it's hard to stay in the closet, it's hard to keep secrets but be okay to everybody around you, and it's hard to live your most authentic self, and I'm still learning how to do that. But the right kind of hard is the one that makes me feel the most peace at the end of the day, makes me feel loved with my full vulnerable self out in the world.
You're so cool.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your story, baby.
Yeah.
That's hard to do, wasn't it?
Harder than I imagined.
I know. I'm aware. I appreciate you letting me sit in the interviewer seat and for opening up and being vulnerable with all of us, because it's a beautiful story.
I love you.
I love you too. All right. Thank you, people.
We made it this far. Thanks for listening to my story.
All right, guys.
And you better come back.
Why do you always scare them into coming back?
Because I think it's a funny thing to say.
Yeah. All right, guys. We love you, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.